A chair scraped across the floor. Big Clay Murdock, broad as a bull and mean as a rattlesnake, rose to his feet. His eyes, hard and cold as a winter's day, locked onto the drifters. A grin spread across his face, revealing teeth that were yellowed and worn like old saddle leather. "You got sand, stranger?" Clay rumbled, his voice like gravel rolling down a hill. "But around here a man do unikill unless he is ready to back it up with his life. You think you're faster than me? Then prove it!" The drifter didn't answer. His silence was like a weight pressing down on the smoky saloon, amplifying the tension that had been building since he walked in. He just stared at Clay, his eyes unwavering, his expression stoic. Slowly, almost lazily, he holstered his revolver. It was a Colt .45, the same make and model as the one in Clay's hand. But it was the way he did it that spoke volumes. There was a calmness in his movements, a quiet confidence that seemed to mock Clay's own bravado. All eyes were on the two men. The saloon, which had been filled with the sounds of laughter and the clinking of glasses just moments before, was now silent. Even the bartender had stopped wiping down the counter, his gaze fixed on the pair in the center of the room. The drifter's silence was his answer, a silent dare that hung heavy in the air. Clay spat on the floor, a sneer twisting his lips. He didn't like the way this standoff was going. The silence was becoming a problem, eating away at his carefully constructed image of dominance. He needed to break it, to say something that would restore his position, something that would remind everyone who was in charge here. But the drifter was playing his cards close to his chest, giving nothing away. With a grunt, Clay turned and walked towards the swinging doors that led outside. The movement was a surrender of sorts, a concession that the stalemate was getting to him. The saloon erupted into cheers. Clay had taken the bait. As the drifter pushed through the swinging doors into the fading sunlight, the whispers rose behind him. For the first time in a long time, maybe ever, Burnt Creek had someone who wasn't afraid to stand up to Clay Murdock. The two men faced off in the street, their shadows stretching long in the late afternoon sun. It was an archetypal Western standoff, a duel of grit and determination under the blazing sky. The air was thick with anticipation. The only sound, the creak of a saloon door, and the distant caw of a crow. The townspeople crowded the boardwalk, their faces a mixture of apprehension and excitement. They'd seen enough shootouts to know how they usually ended, but this one was different. This one had a twist that had them on the edge of their seats. Clay, with his years of experience, should have had the advantage. But the drifter, he was calm, his breathing steady, his eyes locked onto the gun in Clay's hand. It was a psychological game, a battle of wills played out under the unforgiving glare of the sun. Finally, Clay made the first move. A slight twitch of his finger on the trigger. The drifter mirrored the movement, his finger curling slightly. It was a show of readiness, a silent promise that he was prepared to act. Clay hesitated, then made another move, this time more pronounced. He began to draw his gun, his face set in a grim line. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath. This was it. The moment of truth. But the drifter was ready. In a flash, his hands shot out, fingers spread, and he knocked Clay's gun away. The revolver clattered to the ground, spinning on its axis before coming to rest against the wooden fence. Silence fell over the crowd. The drifter hadn't drawn his gun. He didn't need to. He'd won. In that moment, all eyes were on Clay. What would he do? Make a break for his own gun or try to disarm the drifter and take his? But Clay was a pragmatist. He knew when he was beaten. Slowly, he bent down, picked up his gun, and holstered it. With a final glance at the drifter, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the throng of people on the boardwalk. As the crowd began to disperse, the drifter turned and walked the other way. He didn't stick around to see what the fuss was about. Burnt Creek had found itself a new hero, whether it liked it or not. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dusty street, the drifter rode out of town, his horse kicking up its heels in the gathering gloom. He had places to be, people to see. He couldn't afford to get caught up in local disputes. But sometimes, just sometimes, a man had to stop and show them what he was made of.